everyone, welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Katie, and today I'm going to be talking about the 19 books I read in just the first half of September. So I was not going to do a mid-month wrap-up. It's already the 18th as I'm filming this, and you will see it on the 19th, but I mean, it's 19 books in less than 15 days. So anything that I read after the 15th, I'll talk about at the end of the month. But that's a lot of books just for the first half of the month. So yeah, let's just go ahead and talk about all those books. So I don't have them arranged by star ratings. Well, kind of, not really. But I did all my mainstream fiction and then my Christian fiction. So we're going to talk about mainstream fiction first and then Christian fiction after. So without further ado, let's go ahead. I did not have any DNFs yet. I think that's correct. Yeah, I think that's correct. So I'm excited. Okay, so I have a rant to go on one, and quite a few really great reads so far. So the first things that I finished were, I finished volumes 5, 6, and 7 of Those Not So Sweet Boys by Yoko Nagiri. This is the end of the series, so I am caught up. It's done. I finished it. It's a manga series. I've talked about it a few times on my channel, about this girl who has a job while she's in a private academy, and she ends up getting in trouble because the job that she had was not pre-approved. So in order to get a job that is approved by the school, the dean pretty much tells her these kids who are troublemakers and they were suspended, they never came back. So she has to get them back to school in order to keep a job that'll work for the school. So she ends up befriending all these kids. I really love the three boys. I really liked their kind of how they open up to this girl and how they really become friends with her and realize, she's not just doing this for the job. She really does care about these boys. And I really enjoyed the series. I ended up giving book 5 4 stars, book 6 3.5 stars, and book 7 4 stars. So as a total, I think I would give the entire series probably between 3.5 to 4 stars. So it was still really good, and I really did enjoy it. So the next one that I read was a middle grade book. I read it for a prompt. It had to pick a book with an author the same name as you. So I read Last Gamer Standing by Katie Tsao. And this book is about a young girl who has a persona as a gamer, and nobody knows that she's this persona, but she is really big in the gaming world. She's one of the top gamers in the, I'm not sure about the world, but in the area. And so she ends up going to school for that. She gets a sponsorship in order to compete for this prize, so that way she'll be able to earn her way into this school. And so she ends up going for the summer. She ends up training. Her parents really aren't all that keen on her doing it because, as far as her heritage, usually gamers aren't of an ethnic group. Usually they're all white people. So they're like, they didn't really want her to do it. And her mom's also very, very sick. So they kind of wanted her to stay home. But she really wants to do this for herself. So she decides to go. She decides to train and get into this game. She has another persona that she kind of plays off of, so nobody knows that she's the other gaming thing. It was okay. I'll just put it that way. I gave it 3 stars. It was just okay to me. I don't know. I just felt like, honestly, the games that they were in the competition almost felt too easy to win. If you get what I'm saying, almost felt too easy. I didn't feel like it was too hard to win, if that makes any sense. So it was just okay to me. I do like some gaming books, but I'm not a huge gamer myself. I play Sims. That's pretty much it. And maybe Mario, but that's about it. Okay, so the next one that I read, this is where the rant comes in. So I actually DNF'd this book, I think last year, But I read No Exit by Taylor Adams, and I did not like it. I honestly should have DNF'd it. I actually, after I finished it, apologized to God for reading it because there was quite a bit of language in it, more than I'm comfortable with. I'm like, I can get by a few swear words in a book, but this was like a swear word like every 3 or 4 pages. Like, it was bad. And so I didn't like that. I pretty much wanted to get through it to find out what happened to the person inside. If you don't know, there's this girl during a winter storm. She drives up to a rest stop, and she ends up trying to get satellite on her phone to call somebody. And then she ends up going to this truck and she ends up seeing a hand in the window. So I kind of wanted to see what happened to the person in the van. But then I also heard about this giant twist in this book. And I read the entire thing and I literally guessed 95% of the twists. And so I'm like, really? Like, I was not that impressed. It was pretty much an adrenaline junkie type book. Like, I like those types of books, but I just felt like it was more adrenaline junkie than actual storytelling. I did not like it. I gave it 1 star. I did not like it. I did not enjoy it. And I'm sorry I ever picked it up. So yeah, don't pick it up. In my honest opinion, I really did not like that book. And as I said, I had to apologize to God for reading it because there is so much language and so much violence too. So if you don't like gory violence, again, do not read it. I would not recommend it. So I will not be picking up any more books by this author. So that'll help you guys out for sure. All right, so let's go on to happier thoughts now. So the next one that I read was Date the Alphabet by Laura Langa. This is the second book in a series. I read Haley and the Yeti, which I really liked. I also gave this one 4 stars too, and I really love her characters. Her characters are well written. I love the storylines. I love the romance, but it almost gets to be too much romance because it is a secular romance. So you do have bedroom scenes, but they're closed door. But you do kind of see like the heavy kissing beforehand. So yes, so that part I don't really like, but the rest of the story I really love. And I'm like, it would be a 5 stars if not for that. So, but I really do. I love her characters. So this one is about a teacher. Actually, I have 2 books that talk about teachers right in a row. I have to remember which one's which. But in this one, she's pretty much dead set on not dating. And so she ends up getting into this argument with her sister who's getting married. And so we're following her and her sister in this argument right in the beginning saying, I want you to have a date at my wedding. And her sister's like, I don't want anything to do with bringing a date to your wedding. Like, I don't want to. But then she ends up kind of hitting on her heartstrings a little bit by saying, listen, I'm marrying a wealthy man. If you take this bet, I'll give you $2,000 to put towards your teaching supplies because she's a teacher. Even though she works at a private school, they really don't have any funds for teacher stuff. So she's like, okay, what's the bet? Well, her friend says she has to date the alphabet. So she has to date A to Z men's names and pick one of those men to bring to her wedding. And so she decides to take her up on that, and she ends up deciding to try to go from A to Z actually in order. But then there's a guy who is the father of one of her students, and his name starts with Z. So we'll see how that works out. But I was laughing at the antics of some of the men that she was dating. Just there were some bad dates that she had to go through. That poor girl. I mean, if you're going to go through online dating, yeah, you're going to find some really strange men. So it was, other than the 2 heavy kissing scenes, it's a clean book. And I really did like it. I really did. So I gave it 4 stars. I probably will read the last one because I do like the characters enough to continue on. So, all right. Okay, so the next one that I read, the author sent me a copy, so thank you to the author. But it's called Falling for Mr. A+ by Sophie Leigh Robbins, and I gave this one 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. So this is actually the 3rd book in, I can't remember what the series is called at the moment, but it's the 3rd book. But I did ask the author if you can read them as standalone. She said yes, which you can, but you do kind of find out who ends up with who. I mean, obviously, usually that happens in romance books, but I mean, you kind of know right from the beginning most times anyways. So I read it and I really liked it. So this is about a girl. This one's also like a little bit heartbreaking too. So it's about a girl who she was an Olympic swimmer pretty much, and she ends up getting into a car accident and she loses her leg. So she kind of lives off on her own in a different city, and her best friend is still in her hometown, and he's like, pretty much, the most eligible bachelor in the entire school, another school thing, and he's a swim coach and gym teacher. And so she ends up getting a call from her grandfather, and her grandfather says, hey, I know your parents are going away on a week-long or a year-long cruise. I don't think I can take care of myself. I'm pretty much bedridden. Can you come home and take care of me? And so she's like, really? You're that bad, Grandpa? So she ends up deciding to move back home. And so she ends up going home, and she ends up being talked into it by her best friend, who's, of course, the guy at the school. He ends up talking to her into her getting a job as a substitute PE teacher at the school. And so they end up going back to school together, kind of becoming like, well, they've always been friends, but they're kind of saying, you know, maybe there's more to it than just friendship, even though they're kind of ignoring it, even though literally everybody around them sees that they're supposed to be a couple. So it's like, come on, you two, get together. So I really did enjoy it. I really liked it. Yeah, so it was really good. And I really liked that, like, he was a man who kind of was always there for her. Like, even if he was just friends with her, he was okay with that. Like, he just really, really liked her. She was his best friend. Really liked it. All right, so then on to the Christian fiction. And so this one, next series, I finished all 3 books in like less than a week, and it was the Annie Pederson series by Colleen Coble. Usually with hers, I like to wait until they're all published if I can, before I just kind of like to binge read them. So I did. I binge read all of them. First one was Edge of Dusk, second was Dark of Night, and the third one was Break of Day. So I gave book 1 5 stars, and book 2 and 3 I gave 4 stars. So I really did enjoy the series as a whole. I honestly don't think it's my favorite by hers. I still think her Rock Harbor series is my favorite, but this series is set in Rock Harbor, so you do get to see a couple characters come back in the series as fairly minor characters, but you get to see them, which made me so happy because I love the Rock Harbor series, so I got to see some of my favorite characters. So this is all about Annie, and she's been looking for her sister all her life. Her sister went missing. She was kidnapped when they were both little. And so she's pretty much been looking her whole life. And then all of a sudden, this strange girl comes around claiming to be her sister. And so she's trying to figure out if it's real, if it's not. There's some bodies that kind of wash up on the shore there. And there's also some weird, strange mysteries going on where these campers and stuff are mysteriously being chased by people. And if they get away, then they get away and they're set free. If not, then they're killed. And so we're kind of seeing that background mystery kind of go through all 3 books. And then we're seeing some other murder mysteries pop up as well throughout the books. But I enjoyed the series as a whole. I really liked it. If you like kind of that, I would say this is one of her more darker series, but like, I mean, it's not scary or anything. It's just a mystery type of suspense, but I really enjoyed it, and I will absolutely read anything that Colleen comes out with. I still have to read a couple of her series though, so I do have a couple that I could still read. Okay, so the next book that I read was JFK to Dublin by Brooke St. James, and I read this for another prompt that I had in one of my book groups where I had to read a book set in Dublin, so right in the title there. So I read it and I gave it 3 stars. It was pretty good, but I'm okay with insta-love, but I just felt, I don't know, like, I just kind of felt like it was one note throughout the book. Like, it was just kind of like, I don't know. It was okay to me. But it's about this girl who's pretty much dead set on not dating. But this guy who owns this restaurant and also works on a TV show kind of sweeps her off her feet. But I did like his character because he was willing to wait. He was willing to wait. He was, you know, he said he understood what she was going through. She wasn't ready for dating. So he gives her his phone number, says, when you're ready, I'll be here. So I really liked his character about that he really wasn't pushy about dating her. He really wasn't like that. And I really liked his character. So yeah, so it was just kind of just a 3-star book. Like, I liked it, but like, I honestly already don't really remember too much about it. So that's why it got 3 stars. I finally got to Heart of Red, Blood of Blue by Rebecca Ballista. And this is actually our Christian book club pick for August? Yeah, August. But I didn't get to it until the first week of September. But I did read it. and I gave it 5 stars. I really loved it. I really did. I thought it was great. It was a fantasy but non-magical fantasy Christian book. So it's about this girl who she is in an arranged marriage to this man, and she doesn't want an arranged marriage. He's an older man. She's like, I don't want to do it. And so she's in love with a soldier guy. And so she pretty much decides to take off and try to find this soldier guy who she's in love with. And let me tell you this, I did not like him. I knew from the beginning, I'm like, he is bad for you. I don't want him. So yeah, so he wants her basically for his plans to kind of show her father that he's a soldier, pretty much. And so she goes off to find him and ends up being captured by this group of people from another kingdom. And I can't remember his name. I'll put it here. But his nickname, I had it. Something the Bloodless. But basically, everyone thinks that like he doesn't bleed, and he's pretty much a cutthroat villain type of a character. And so you see him capture this girl, and just honestly, I think his name's Colin. Don't quote me. No, I'm wrong. Wow, names have left me. Oh well. But anyways, I loved his character so much. I thought his development throughout the book, I loved his character. Probably one of my favorite heroes in the book. Just spoil anything, because I'm not gonna spoil anything, but he's one of my favorite characters in the book. So I really liked his character a lot. So pick it up if you like fantasy, but like it's just like kind of medieval historical fiction, kind of. Okay, and then I read the sequel to, I have it on my bookshelf, Madness in Wonderland. I read the sequel, which was called Lost in Wonderland by Tabitha Bolden, and I really like it. I gave it 4 stars. So I really enjoyed this duology. I gave both 4 stars. But it's a steampunk retelling of the Tim Burton Alice in Wonderland. So we're kind of getting the steampunk, we're getting Alice in Wonderland. There's a romance between Alice and Hatter. So I really enjoyed it. I liked seeing the White Queen kind of take a bigger part in the second book, and kind of seeing some extra characters come as the White Queen. Her daughter is kind of dual perspective between her and Alice. So we're kind of seeing both of their perspectives as they kind of rescue the kingdom with some other things going on throughout White's kingdom, because White's kingdom is kind of in danger. These kids have been kidnapped for years now. And so Alice is finally like, we gotta stop this. Like, what's going on? Why are these kids being kidnapped? And so they're trying to get the kids back. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. There's definitely a lot of characters to follow, but I like it. I really didn't have too much trouble following characters, but I really liked it. So yeah, it was good. I also read the sequel to The Librarian of Boons Hollow, which was The Return to Boons Hollow by Kim Vogel-Sawyer, and I loved that book. I gave it 5 stars. I loved it as much as the first one. It was so good. I really loved it. So I don't know. I guess I can talk about it, because even though it's a sequel, it's kind of a standalone, because it's about a different character from the first book. And so we're following, I think her name's Annie. If I'm wrong, I'll put it on the screen. But we're following her, and her father has been in jail for years. He had a distillery. He was unfortunately a drunk, and so he pretty much is put into prison for that. And so he's finally getting out. And so they sent her a letter saying, hey, your father is on good behavior and getting out of jail, I think like 5 years early. So she's freaking out, because he was a terrible father to her and to her mother. And so she has no idea what to do. And she also has a relationship with this guy who's friends with the first guy in the first book. And so she's like trying to figure out things with him. She's trying to figure out, what can I do about my father? She's fairly new to being a Christian too. So she's living with this really sweet old lady at her house. And so they kind of have bonded a lot, and she doesn't really want to leave her to marry this guy. And so we're kind of following her decisions on, what can she do. Her friends from the first book are living in her dad's cabin. So now he's coming back. Where are they going to live? So it's kind of their journey on what can they do. So yeah, I did really enjoy that one. I'm glad I finally read it because I read the first book like last year, beginning of last year, I think. So it's been a while. I'm glad I finally finished it. And then the last books that I have physical copies. Yay! I had no physical copies for any of those. That's okay though. All right, so the first one is Dearest Josephine by Caroline George. So this was the book in the Beyond the Book box, which I was going to say sponsored, but just get blessed with the book boxes so I get to share them with you all. But this was the YA book pick for August. Yes, August. And so I read this one and I really liked it. So I ended up giving it 3 stars just because I don't think I would honestly really remember it too much. So I could probably pick it up again and read it and have a new experience with it. But I mean, this cover, it's one of my favorite covers of all time. I love this cover so much. It's so pretty. But this is, I honestly just, I wish the one timeline was different. So this is dual timeline. We're back in 1821 and 2021. And so this girl's father in 2021, he ends up passing away. And she finds out that he bought a house in this little village. So she ends up going to this house and she ends up finding some manuscripts and old letters. And so she ends up starting to read them, and it's all about this man back in 1821 who was in love with a girl named Josephine, and her name is Josie. So she kind of sees a connection there. But she kind of gets a little bit obsessive with this man 200 years ago, and she kind of thinks that like he's writing to her. And 200 years later, she doesn't know how that's possible. She doesn't know what's going on. And so we're kind of seeing her journey and through the letters and through his letters back in 1821. So I'm not going to spoil anything because there's things that happen at the end. But I just felt in the 1821 timeline, there was a lot of things going on that in the 1821 timeline that I felt were very not historically accurate. And I am really not a person to really go after people for that, but like it was just so obviously not historically accurate. But other than that, I did really like kind of the letters and the love letters going on and seeing what went on and what happened later on in the book. So I really enjoyed the ending more than like the rest of the book. I felt like the ending was definitely worth it. I like seeing the ending and seeing what happened with those letters and stuff. So I'm not gonna spoil anything. Okay, so then I think this one might be my favorite book of the month, and that is Woman from Lydia by Angela Hunt. I already have a book review for this and the other ones that I have to talk about, so I'll leave those in the description box if you want to check it out. So this one is her newest book in the series, the Emma series, and I really enjoyed this one. So we're following a woman who, she goes by Lydia, but her name is Yodia, and she is a maker of purple fabric. And so she collects these snail shells from the sea to create this beautiful purple dye, to create these fabrics. And she's pretty much very well sought out to get this. And so she kind of helps these women get jobs, women who have been unfortunately in the slave trade and as prostitutes, and she takes them and she gives them jobs and she gives them a home and a purpose. And so I really liked her character. I thought she was really great. And so, but one day she ends up telling her servant to go and buy a lady a girl, 12 years old, who was who was going to be sent to a man to hurt her. And so she's like, buy this woman. I really want this girl to protect her. So he ends up buying her from this guy. But the guy's friend is part owner of this slave girl, and he doesn't know that she was sold. And so he comes back and takes back the girl, even though she was bought, but she doesn't have a receipt of sale. So the servant and Yodia go on the hunt for this slave girl because they really want to protect her and keep her safe. And Yodia really feels like God is telling her to go after this girl. And so she does. And I really liked it. It is a character-driven story. I loved it. I loved it so much. And this probably is my new favorite Angela Hunt book. Yeah, I definitely think so. Even though I love Unspoken, by Angela Hunt. I think this is my new favorite. All right, and then the last 3 that I have are 3 Christmas books. Yes, I already read Christmas, only because I had to read these for book reviews. And I mean, I could have gotten them from the library later, but I mean, 2 of these authors I absolutely love so much, and I've read multiple books from. And the other one, I really just wanted to try her books because I have not read a thing by her, and I'm glad I did. So the first one was A Royal Christmas by Melody Carlson. This is a Princess Diaries kind of retelling Christmas story. So we're following this girl named Adelaide, and she finds out she's working to be a lawyer, but she ends up getting a letter from this country in Europe, and comes to find out that they were looking up online for ancestry, and her name came up, and she is officially the heir to the throne, and her father is very very sick and ailing in his health, and they tell her, you got to come to this small country and see your father before he goes. And so she ends up going, and she's unsure about anything. She's still trying to become a lawyer. Does she go back to the US after she sees her father? She's never met him before. So you just kind of see her, and I really wasn't a fan of the romance in this book. It was okay, but I was here for the relationship between her and her father. I really, really loved their relationship. I loved how quickly they immediately fell in love with each other and were just so wonderful to each other. And I was telling one of my friends on Facebook, I was like, listen, I want like a full story on the father, like him growing up in the castle, falling in love with her mother. Like, I would love a story about him. I think it would be great. I should text Melody and let her know, because who knows, maybe she will write one. But yeah, so I ended up giving this one 4 stars. So it was still really good. All right, and then the next one that I have is All's Fair in Love and Christmas by Sarah Monzon. I really like this one. I gave this one another 4 stars. This is about a girl named Mackenzie. She's a graphic designer, and every Christmas, one of the people in the office gets a promotion. And so pretty much what goes around the office is whoever has the most Christmas spirit throughout the season gets a promotion. Well, Mackenzie has extremely bad social anxiety. I mean, extremely bad. And so I don't know if I've ever seen a character with this much social anxiety in a book. I really appreciated that. Like, I have social anxiety, not as bad as her. I'm just very, very quiet, and I really do not like talking in front of people. I'm good like one-on-one or one on a couple, but put me in a room with a lot of people and yeah, you got social anxiety there. But I really appreciated just the character and how well Sarah did at writing this character. I just felt like she was really truly like knew how the character felt through her anxiety and stuff. And I just really like that. So her and another coworker named Jeremy, they're competing for the promotion. Boss kind of says, I have a promotion. It's between you two. After Christmas, we'll see who gets it. So it's kind of like the boss doesn't say that the person with the most Christmas spirit gets it, but that's what always happens every year. So they get into a competition. And that's another thing I appreciate about this book. It was a friendly competition. It wasn't mean. It wasn't, sabotaging or anything. Like, I really appreciated that it was just a friendly competition between 2 coworkers, and I just really appreciated that. And I love Mackenzie because she is so like me when it comes to liking a guy. Like, pretty much she's like this guy since he's walked into the workplace, and she's never told him anything. That's so like me. Like, I don't know, like, if I see a great looking guy, I'm a complete clam. I'll shut up. I might say hi. That's about it. So yeah, but it's a very sweet romance. I really liked the whole office area and the Christmas spirit in this book. It was really great. Okay, then the last book, which actually might be tied for my favorite book of the month, and that was You Make It Feel Like Christmas by Toni Shiloh. I love Toni. I love her so much. I'm glad to call her my friend, because I do. I love her so much, and I will support her through every book that she writes. I love her so much, and this book is it's pure cheesy goodness. And it's a good cheese. Like, there is cheesy where like, there's too much cheese, but then there's cheese that's it's sweet, it's funny, and it's such a perfect holiday book. It's just so cute. And I really liked how this story went. So this is about a girl named Star. I should remember that. All of her siblings are named after Christmas things. So Star, she has just been laid off work, and so she has not told anyone that she's laid off, but she has to go home for the holidays to be there for Christmas with her family, and also her sister's getting married to her ex-boyfriend. Yeah, a really cringy moment there, that's for sure. So she ends up going, I mean, she has to, because I mean, it's her sister. I mean, I don't know if I could, but she goes and she doesn't tell anybody that she's laid off. So she's trying to figure out while she's trying to enjoy the holiday, what am I going to do? Like, is she going to go back to New York City or is she going to stay here in Washington? So she ends up staying at home during the holidays, and where she runs into Waylon. Waylon has been her brother's best friend since forever, so they grew up together. But one of my favorite scenes is when Waylon comes to their house and she opens the door and his mouth just like drops open and he sees how gorgeous she is, and he's like, who was this girl standing in the doorway? Like, I do not remember her, but he thinks she's beautiful. And so they kind of start off a new friendship and a new relationship throughout this book, and I just really liked it. Waylon is trying to also fix up his grandmother or his mother's shop because she passed away. So then Star comes in and tries to help him with that. So I really liked it. I thought it was really cute. These are the only ones I have physically, but that's okay. Always happens, right? But that was a lot of books to talk about. So glad I wasn't here forever, and I will probably at least have another 10 books to talk about at the end of the month. So look forward to another end of the month wrap up. But I'm glad I did a mid-month wrap up. It just would have been too long, too much. Yeah, so thankfully I got this done. So if you've read any of these, let me know. Let me know your thoughts. If you liked it, if you didn't, that's okay. We all have different opinions on books. That's okay. All right, so I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you all in the next video.